Chuckle Brothers!
Okay, yeah, Chuckle Brothers, not Biomet, sorry. Okay, can everyone hear us? Yeah! Even at the back? Yeah! Great, okay.
Can you hear me on this one?
Can everyone hear Fipsy?
Yeah. Okay, we're good. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Fipsy. I'm Mr. Stub, the Dub. And we have the great honour of being MCs this evening. So it's our job to introduce the speakers.
Indeed, so I'm glad to report we can still read our scripts. They're in very big font. We've had a lot of the raspberry vodka. Now we're not really sure what Harriet and Andy had in mind when they chose us for this role. Maybe the Chuckle Brothers, probably something a bit like Ant Dec, but I think they probably got something a bit closer to Will and Simon from the In-Betweeners. Rubbish.
Yeah, he's Will, just to be clear. Opposite. Now, before we start, we just like to say, that the bride looks absolutely stunning. Not quite sure how I'm defining that, but
Perseverance.
and I'm sure you'll all agree that the venue looks absolutely fantastic. And the food and drink, delicious.
Yeah. Fipsy looks good.
So without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce our first speaker. Please raise your glasses and put your hands together. Give a very warm welcome to the father of the bride, Mr. Bill Evans.
Daytime.
I can see you're a tough audience. Firstly, Anne and I would like to welcome you all here. As Fipsy has said, the meal was wonderful, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And thank you for coming. It's good to see so many of Andy and Harriet's friends here. And family. I'd particularly like to welcome those of you that have travelled a long way. I don't mean those that have come from London or spent 6 hours on the M1 yesterday. There are some that have come slightly further, like from Singapore and Chile. Well, Dad, you can make. In fact, I think Andy is Dad. You can eat it as well. We especially welcome Andy's parents, Ken and Sue, and his grandmothers, Jo and Ivy. It's good to see you here. So I hope you all continue to have a wonderful time this evening and later. Those of you that know Harriet well know that she is happiest with something to organise. and relishes the process of the organisation. I think Andy has already started to realise that leaving things to the last minute is something she does not see as an entirely endearing quality. Previously, buying a flat and setting up home seems to have met the bill to channel her energies, but since they became engaged, organising the wedding has of course taken over. Although she seems to have managed to take some time off to organise acquiring a new house as well. Even though, of course, I had become aware of Harriet's penchant for taking complete control of whatever she throws herself into, I was a little surprised to discover her desire for control extended to my speech. Even more surprised that this manifested itself very early in the wedding planning process. I was at a dinner with Rupert about a year ago, probably more, when he revealed to me that Harriet had enrolled him to supervise my speech. She was apparently already worried about it. At that point, she of course had nothing to worry about. She should have saved the worry until I started thinking about what to say. In any event, Rupert engaged with this duty with the enthusiasm he reserves for everything in life. So it was a forlorn request. I'm afraid those of you that don't know Rupert will have to learn about that. It appears the reason Rupert was engaged for this sensitive task is that he is the only one of my children to have seen me on my feet in court. One afternoon, some years ago, he and Anne met me for lunch and then came to watch me perform in the High Court in London in the afternoon. Thank you, Aidan. It was an interesting case, I thought, anyway. It involved depleted uranium and vital evidence which was contained in 2-litre bottles of 2-year-old urine, which had travelled across the Atlantic to a laboratory in a Canadian university, and then back to one in Cambridge, where they languished on a shelf, and in fact were in the possession of my principal expert witness. Rupert, however, appears to have discovered none of these interesting facts, despite spending the entire afternoon listening to me making my closing speech. He has, apparently, only 2 memories of the afternoon. The first one was of his mother sitting next to him, falling asleep. The second one, which is a related event, was that during the course of the afternoon, the judge was also fast asleep. But not, I think, for very long. Possibly not as long as Anne. I'm not sure Anne had an excuse for falling asleep. She was only listening to me for a couple of hours. But I did sympathise with the judge and didn't wake him up. Rupert was in fact witnessing the afternoon of the 3rd day of my closing speech, which I continued to make well into the following afternoon. It lasted for some 20 hours in total. So presumably Harriet's anxiety is a fear that I will speak for far too long, or that I will send you all to sleep. I will endeavour to avoid both. I suppose one knows that one has become acceptable as a dad when your daughter starts phoning you in the middle of the night to ask for advice about her latest romantic crisis. I was, however, slightly surprised in one of these calls to hear Harriet say, "I fancy my dad, but I'm not sure whether I should tell him, because I do not know what my mum would say. What do you think I should do?" Perhaps I should explain. Some of you might understand the context of this, but for those of you that did not attend Durham University, Shortly before Harriet went to Hatfield College, she received a letter telling her that she'd been allocated a new dad, and mum, and a few new siblings. Apparently they do this to all new students. It does not seem to be a comment on the adequacies of the previous or even existing parents and siblings, but a way of ensuring that new students immediately have a pair of second-year students to show them around. I presume they are useful to impart information, like the quickest way to the Student Union bar, or which societies to join to have the best time while at Durham. In any event, it seems to have been remarkably successful in Harriet's case, because Andy was appointed to be her dad. The rest, as they say, appears to be history. That history has brought us to today, when Anne and I are very pleased to be welcoming Andy into our family. A quick look at his CV demonstrates that he is a prime candidate to be welcomed into any family. An English international athlete as a teenager, followed by a first-class degree, or a good start. Now he has a solid career as an investment banker. Yes, actually on second thought, bankers have become more unpopular than lawyers, so perhaps we should skirt over that bit. Perhaps we can't lump Andy in with the faults of all